Hello everyone. So this is the video lecture for survey design, and let's get started. So the most important part of the survey process is the creation of questions that accurately measure the opinions and experiences of behaviors of the public. So try not to ask biased or ambiguous questions. And I'm going to get in some I'm going to get some examples here of bad questions that would be more biased questions. So, for example, leading questions are the most obvious of the bias spot. What a leading question is you're trying to lead your audience or your target survey audience into um, an answer with your question. So, like, how amazing was your experience with our customer service team? You're leading them there because you're saying amazing. So that's not good. Don't do that. You'll get skewed answers, and if you remember, skewness is. What problems did you have with the launch of this product? You're kind of leading people into problems. You kind of just want to ask what their experience was with the launch. What would you be worried about if you would discontinue the product line again? That word worried has some implications to it, and it's going to skew results. Same thing I just said. Don't if you do leading questions, you'll impact the results, and you don't want to impact the results yourself because you want to understand what's going on in the world, not really understand what you want to see what's going on in the world. What to do instead? On a scale of 1 through 10, how satisfied were you with our customer service team? That's a good way to do it instead. It doesn't really lead them into a response. It gives the customer a chance to provide a useful and easily measurable rating for this. Your vague or ambiguous questions. How do we compare to our competitors is a vague question. And do you think your family members would like product X is a vague question. You can fall victim to this without realizing it, but you need to not be vague. So let's say the bottom question there, do you think your family members would like product X? Well, um, what family member are you talking about? Your mom has different likes, your dad has different likes, your cousins have different likes, your uncle, your aunt, they all have different likes. So you're not really asking them specifically anything really because you're not targeting a demographic. They're not targeting males between 30 and 40, for example. They're just being vague about what the target audience is here. So you're going to get answers that go everywhere. Is what you're going to get with that question itself, and that's not what you want. So make sure that you're not doing that. So next, oops, are double-barreled questions. And what these means is like you're asking a question, but you're actually asking two questions in one. Don't ask two questions in one. The simplest solution here is to break up your two questions to one of these two separate questions. Not a big deal. These questions usually ask the customer to provide an opinion on two topics. So, like for example, how satisfied are you with our customer service and aftercare? And would you like our product to be cheaper or more value for our money? So you're asking two questions. Don't do that when you formulate the questions. You'll confuse your customers and you'll get skewed results, and at worst, you'll end up annoying them by not giving them a chance to respond separately. So don't do that. Again, just break your questions into two. As like this. Absolute questions are something to be avoided. These questions can bias your respondent's choice by forcing them into an absolute categorical response when they might have not have had one. Using words like never, always, and all will hurt your results. You're asking your customer to be 100% certain about something. As in, do you always use product X for your cleaning needs? Well, sometimes I use Mr. Clean, and other times I use, I don't know, scrubbing bubbles. Those are two different things. And make sure you don't use always or never. Try to, ask what's the most frequently used product you have, right? Or tell us why tell us uh, the most common the, what brand of soda do you most frequently purchase? You can say that. So these are too inflexible, and again, they'll skew your results, or people just get out of the survey altogether. You don't want that to happen. If the questions themselves sound aggressive because of the absolute nature of the language, then the customer in turn might be encouraged to respond aggressively themselves, leaving negative feedback. This does happen. I'm telling you, it does happen. People can get really weird in these surveys with you. What to do instead? You can say simply never use absolutes. Use specific options instead, so customers have a choice. What discourages you from purchasing our product? The price is too high would be an answer. The quality is not good would be an answer. You weren't aware of the product. These are all answer, options for that question. Kind of going to our bias on the questions. These questions are usually binary yes/no choice, where the questions are worded as such that the respondent is more likely to respond positively to every question in the survey. People will go into absolute autopilot mode if you only give them two choices. It's weird, but it happens. And so, is our level of customer service satisfactory? Don't say yes or no. Instead, you can say on a scale of 1 through 5, with 1 being worst service imaginable and 5 being the best possible service I've ever gotten. How is our customer service? So 2 and 3, 4 being in between. And it's you can do the same scale on our product is easy to use and say agree or disagree. Our product is easy to use. Instead, you can be on a scale of 1 through 5, with 1 being strongly disagree and 5 being strongly agree. Is our product easy to use? Consequences is you ultimately learn nothing of value from these types of questions, and the whole survey will be a waste of time and money. You'll end up everything seems fine scenario because no one is providing you with any genuinely valuable feedback and agreeing with all your statements. Just don't use yes or no or agree or disagree. You can scale these things. Allow multiple options for your customers to select. Don't do yes or no questions. I will knock you down on your grade if you submit a yes or no question, so don't do it. So in order to get into your question development, first, step 1, you need to identify the topic covered in your survey, which just means you must think about what is happening around you and what are interesting topics to you, the researcher. While not a must, if it helps if the topic is relevant to the public, media, and policymakers, mention that. And then your past survey results can help here if you wish to continue measuring someone else's work. More Pew Research examples on things like skew answers. When people were asked, this is way to skew results with the question order itself. So when people were asked whether they would favor or oppose taking military action in Iraq to end Saddam Hussein's rule, 68% said they favored military action, while 25% said that they would oppose it. But when asked favored or opposed taking military action in Iraq to end Saddam Hussein's rule, even if it meant that U.S. forces might suffer thousands of casualties, that changed things, right? Because of that line in there, even if it meant U.S. forces might suffer thousands of casualties. So they only 43 said they favor military action. Now, keep in mind the question without them thinking about soldiers. They said 68% favored it, so that dropped it like a whole 20%, almost more than. So it's a big deal with how you word your questions. Open-ended and closed-ended responses. Respondents' answers is from their own words if it's open-ended, and closed-ended are answers chosen from a list of provided answers. Avoid open-ended questions in your survey. Don't do them. And provide answers need to be mutually exclusive. Answers do not overlap for mutual exclusivity. And collectively exhaustive, they cover all possible answers. Here's an example of not being mutually exclusive. There's 1, 2, A is 1, 2, B is 2, 3, C is 3, 4, D is 4, 5. But what you want to do is be mutually exclusive and make your categories not overlap. For example, A would be 1 and 2, B would be 3 and 4, C would be 5 and 6, and D would be 7 and 8. If they overlap, like the top example, then even when that says the answer would be 2, they would be in 2 categories. You would be counting them twice. You don't want to count the same person twice. That's the reason why everything needs to be mutually exclusive. Examples of not being collectively exhaustive is forgetting to list 2 states. So you got being collectively exhaustive means you're including everything that's a possible answer. So let's say that you want to talk about states in the United States. You could list all 50 states and then put other for U.S. territories, right? Or you could just list U.S. territories separately too, as long as you include everything. Listing all states and putting as others for options for U.S. territories. So yeah. Some great questions to get you started would be gender, state, how old you are, what is your race, what is your estimated income. Make sure you put down the options there for that. Refer to the homework assignment video I posted last night. It'll get you started on that. So question order, earlier questions do impact things. There's an example about gay marriage. If you ask first legal agreements, then gay marriage would, so if you ask first about civil unions, then gay marriage would actually tick lower. But if you ask first about gay marriage, civil unions would go up. Now, this was Pew Research Center in 2003, so it's kind of a different time. So now it's time to develop your questions. Feel free to email me with any questions you have, and that should be enough to get you started. But again, as I said in the homework video, if you're still having issues, please feel free to contact me. We can schedule a meeting and work through it together. All right.